Have you ever wondered why suburbia lacks a sense of place? Can you even think of a place in Northern Virginia that is culturally distinct? American urban architecture lacks soul and emotion. Why? I'm guessing because it's cheaper. In 2022, about 420,000 new rental apartments were built in the US. This rapid construction of multi-family apartment buildings are atrocious. Yes, of course, housing is good to have because people need shelter, but across the nation, the style of these buildings is practically standardized. They're blocky, obtrusive, and most of all, ugly. A New York Times article describes this nationwide construction as startlingly alike, often in the form of boxy mid-rise buildings with a ground floor retail space, sans serif fonts, and vivid slabs of bright paneling. The bulky design is conspicuous, jutting out of downtown streets and overpowering its surroundings. But why are they built like this? Oftentimes, architects must work under budgetary constraints, stifling the possibility of beautiful buildings in favor of economical monstrosities. In a New York Times article, Davy Parker Garcia, a principal at a Seattle-based architecture firm, Weinstein, said there was also pressure to squeeze as many units as you can. Almost a decade ago, the typical one-bedroom unit that the firm would work on was around 730 square feet, but now that expectation is that it should be in the 600 square feet. Another cause of the problem is a growing monopoly over construction. A handful of real estate developers are now managing a disproportionate share of new projects across the country. In a TED Talk, James Kunstler verbally destroys American buildings. Although if you look this guy up on Wikipedia, you will find some troubling political beliefs, but I think his TED Talk from 17 years ago did a good job at critiquing American architecture.
You know, this is a building designed like a DVD player. Audio jack, power supply. And look, you know, these things are important architectural jobs for firms, right? You know, we hire firms to design these things. You can see exactly what went on. 3 o'clock in the morning, the design meeting, you know, 8 hours before deadline, 4 architects trying to get this building in on time, right? And they're sitting there at the long boardroom table with all the drawings and the renderings, and all the Chinese food caskets are lying on the table. And I mean, what was the conversation that was going on there? Because you know what the last word was, what the last sentence was of that meeting. It was, fuck it.
American cities lack any sense of place. It's anytown architecture, and it's hard to know where you are from one city to the next. Here's a quote about new American buildings from Brad Evans, an artist from Denver. They're like Denny's. You could be at a Denny's in Iowa or New Mexico or Colorado, and you wouldn't know. You just know that you're at Denny's. My final take on America's modern architecture is this. Sure, we need housing. In 2022, the nation was short by 3.8 million housing units, so clearly it's a good thing that we can close that gap with cheap but quick development. But does it really, truly have to be at the cost of aesthetics? In the long run, placelessness from this bland development hurts our communities, so would it not be better to invest in aesthetically pleasing and sustainable urban development? I will leave you with one last quote from James Kunstler.
There's not enough Prozac in the world to make people feel okay about going down this block.